to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I want to welcome everybody. We do have cookies and drink. I'll start with Brian. Introductions.
Ryan Key, Tech Director. Jason Long, Middle School Principal, Curriculum Coordinator for the district.
Keelan Thompson, Deerfield High School Principal.
All parents, just observing.
Thank you and welcome. All right, we do have adjustments to the agenda, and you can see what the adjustment is. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
And second? Second. All those in favor? Thank you. All right, consideration of the minutes. The minutes of the April 14th, 2026 school board meeting. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Comments, questions, revisions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Public comment. This is the time the public can comment. You can come up to the podium. Don't race. All right, unless you want to talk, Paul, we're all done. Communications.
So the board did receive an email from Brandy Bordeaux. You should have all been able to read it. She did ask a few questions and provided some suggestions on the upcoming budget and positions.
Thank you. All right, old business. Any old business?
No old
Bruce?
business.
Okie dokie. New business. Did they get this or just me?
It was everybody is it linked in their agenda.
Okay. See, I get that and I put it on my refrigerator. So this is the new next year's board schedules. Any questions or comments on that?
Just
Yeah.
knowledge, what is everybody's name next to it?
Okay, so that's the administrator who would be reporting out that night.
Oh,
So I just put it on the original schedule so I don't have to make multiple copies.
got it.
I would like to point out that Brenda Gammon has graciously accepted my request to have one of our meetings up there next year, because the new buildings will be open and used, so we can have a tour again, and some of our board members weren't here when we toured last time.
Love it.
Did love it. They fed us too a little bit. These trees.
I like it.
Well, I will leave that to Bruce and Brian to take up with.
Is that, are you offering to bake, Barbara?
No, I know
I thought
Katie's
you were
doing it,
offering to
so.
grab some. Oh, you want me to see if they'll
And I
do
also
it?
did one meeting at the middle school and one at the elementary school, just because it's nice to at least see the other.
Great.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out. Next is a motion to move the following employees from 1 year probationary to 2 year probationary. And do you want to do it as a group or individually?
As a group.
As a group, and you can see Scott Dunbar, Kate Russell, Sarah Millage, and Marilee Colpitz. Can I have motion?
So moved.
And a second? Comments or questions? This is what we do, Rachel, for new teachers. They get a 1 year probation, and then the second year they go on, it's called continuing contract. But
After year 2.
after year 2, correct. Because they're evaluated and they're still. Seeing no questions, all those in favor? Thank you. Motion to move the following 2 year probationer to continuing contract. And you can see Noah, Brenna, Kayla, Aaron, Kelly, Kristen, and Alexis.
So moved.
And a second? Oh, you got one missing?
No, I just have a, is it okay for me to comment?
Yes.
So I know at least for my building, I have someone that when you are approving them to continuing contract, it is contingent upon their ultimate receipt of their final full certification.
Correct.
Some folks still working on their conditional certifications.
Yeah, because they have to finish that. They have so many years. I don't know how many, they have to take so many classes. Any comments or question on this?
So is this someone,
Excuse me?
Did we approve them already? I mean,
No, we haven't. We're still having comments and
but are
questions.
we approving the ones that are now certified?
That's a good question, Pam.
And so, yes, per contract, you would, because they've done year one and year two, so per contract, they would move on to continuing contract. But they also know that they have a time frame from the Maine Department of Education to finish their conditional or emergency certification to become fully certified. So if they do not make that, then we would part ways.
So my question goes is, are you able to tell us exactly who we're talking about on this group?
No one.
So Erin Pelletier at the high school is working on finishing up her math degree.
Oh, God, yeah.
And Alexis Holman at the middle school is working on her degree. Christian Stowell is also working on with fully guidance. They have social work now. And
Kelly made it this year.
Kelly made it. Everybody else is
Yeah.
certified.
Is there anybody past the date?
No, there would not be anybody past the date, or we would
That's
not be moving forward.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you.
And we were going to do the new hire at the beginning.
Oh, I forgot and I missed
So maybe
it.
Jason
So
can do that
Jason
now.
could leave. Here we do the adjustments to the,
And Dan, you
Oh.
can get mine up while he's.
well, you said the superintendent's report, see?
Well,
I moved to the front, oh, start a new business. Well, I went through, hey, the Boston Celtics are on tonight. Keep going. Sorry, Jason.
So I'm bringing forward for the new PE health teacher at Deerville Middle School, Lauren Hebert. Lauren currently is teaching at Oxford Hills Middle School. Prior to that, she has been a professional dietitian. She has a master's degree in diet.
Food science.
Thank you, yep. And her minor in her undergraduate work was in exercise science. She is not here tonight because she also still works as a professional dietitian in the afternoons, and when I told her the night of this, she was already scheduled to do something tonight, couldn't come. I'm really excited to have someone, she's very professional, and the folks who were in the interview were really excited by just the depth of her content knowledge. She is really passionate about health and nutrition, as well as exercise. I think it's a really good fit for what you want to see in a middle school health PE teacher. And she's kind of old school and no nonsense, and fits with the direction I want to take the building in that way too.
I forgot, I read the resume, I forgot.
Yeah.
So what grades is she teaching right
It'll
now?
be 7th and 8th grade.
Okay, so she's already got some experience with
She's
that.
been teaching
Yeah.
at Oxford Hills Middle School.
Yeah.
And I will say that when I called Heather Manchester, who's the superintendent over there, she was very sad to hear that she was potentially moving, but I do believe she lives in the Livermore Falls J area, so
She
it's
does.
definitely shorten her commute.
It's a good resume.
I had the opportunity to sit in on her interview. I am really excited that she's accepted the position. As a parent of middle schoolers, or at least one middle schooler that'll probably have her as a teacher, she was an exceptional candidate, really excited to have her on board.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Ellen, well done. Thank you.
Do you have a question? Bruce?
Did you have to motion this, or?
Because I didn't get the first or the second.
I thought you motioned.
I
No?
didn't hear anyone motion.
Oh, Lord, I'm terrible.
So moved.
So moved. Second, there you go. Now all those, you got a question?
No, that was my question.
Oh, that-
So fast, it's like, did I miss this motion? and second?
vacation.
No, I'm going on vacation. I've been running the roads for people.
So I just want to give you a budget update. Mary and I were talking right before this meeting, like, we feel like this has been the budget of like, where we're going next, what's happening next. But it's important to have updates, so here we go.
They gave us more money, yay!
On they did actually, on April 14th, the board had indicated that they could probably support a 5.36% increase to maintain current programming in RSU 56. That would make our total budget of just under 16 million, up about 813,000. So that has obviously increase of salaries, increase of oil prices. We have a thing to talk to you about that tonight. Increase in cost of supplies and materials. The Region 9 increase, and then to maintain the school resource officer and the extended learning opportunity position. So that was what was in that budget. So you had heard these before. The administrative priorities were the dean of students, and you know that we repurposed funds from nutrition. We took $13,000 out to make sure that's in, so that's in that current budget. The network manager IT specialist position was not in that budget. Okay. So since April 14th, the additional funds came from the Maine Department of Education of $54,080. This was our one-time funding to help stabilize school units with high proportions of economically disadvantaged students. So that came out of the blue, so we have additional funding to put in the budget. That would leave us at the 5.36% increase. With that additional revenue, these are where we would be at, with Canton seeing about 1.5% decrease, Carthage just under 1% increase, Dixfield just over 5%, and Peru over 8%. Across the district, we would be about 4.164% increase.
I have a question.
Yep.
Can I ask a question? Remember that grant that we did, that we went to?
Yep.
Okay, so when we were talking about dean of students, was that similar to what that would have covered?
No, what we were talking about, that money is $5,000, and we were talking about using that towards like a volunteer coordinator or something to help.
Something different. I thought, okay, something similar, but it's something different.
Yeah, it kind of sits outside the budget because it's just like a one-time check of $5,000 to do something to continue to do
It wouldn't help with any of that, okay.
community involvement.
I was just curious.
Yeah, focus on community involvement. So we still have this option to include the network IT position for about $98,000. That would add 0.65% to the full budget, making it just over 6% increase. We talked about this at the Finance Committee. Finance Committee was pretty strong on not adding it because they liked the 5.36% increase and felt like that was better for the towns. However, we really think this tech position is important. And I am going to ask Brian to come up and just kind of go through some of the reasons why we think this position is a critical position to add to the, I guess Jason's going to come too.
Brian's had a question.
Well, we're getting double done.
You just let me know if you need me.
Kayla's back up.
Yeah, so that, Jason and I are kind of going to tag team this one a little bit and talk about why we think the tech position is important to add to our budget here at 56. Start off with the first couple.
So we spent a lot of time in admin discussions, kind of going over the various priorities, and we kept coming back to this because there are areas and issues that are just too important to not force us to do the hard work to reprioritize around them. So some for examples, kind of from the perspective of a building principal. There are some real capacity issues to spot check what students are doing on devices. My staff does a good job. We have Apple Computer when students are on their devices. We have a system so that teachers on their screen can see what students are doing on their screens. But we've put so much time and energy into making sure the kiddos don't have access to their cell phones during the day. They obviously still many times have access to their school devices. And there is a realistic limited capacity if you rely solely on classroom teacher observation of network activity. And by having a person devoted per building, that helps us better enforce the expectations regarding appropriate versus inappropriate use of the devices. Another very real thing is camera work. Obviously, I have access to the cameras in my building. We have cameras on some of our buses. It's really important. And there is a delay. Let's say there's an incident that happens. There isn't someone available to put in the time. Like, it takes more than 3 minutes to go over 3 hours of camera footage to try to find an incident or a situation. Some of the time I'm available to do that. I've gotten pretty good at it. That's fine. Some of the time, especially when it's a bus issue, it can take days. It can take days until someone is able to go to the location where the bus footage is sort of held, put the time in to review the bus footage from those angles, put it together so that an administrator can then view it. Increasing the capacity of having tech folks to do that work for each building, I think can be a really important safety benefit and increase the turnaround time on some pretty important investigations. Supporting assessment windows. So this doesn't sound like, nobody other than me gets excited about testing, right? Like, I get that. But it is something that we work really hard to try to create a culture around where kids take it seriously so that the data is valid, whatever the results are. And when you have a hiccup and there's no tech person in your building, that's a real problem. And when we go to schedule 3 schools worth of assessments in a tight state window and we don't have someone available, that means we really can't run assessments the same day in any building. And that can create some, if there's a hiccup, it gets really tricky to sort of figure out how to pull that off. When the internet goes down, I'm a big believer in we need to have books because some days the lights go out. But it is a massive setback to learning time when you have that kind of a delay. And when we lose network activity in my building, there have been days where, you know, one tech person is out, one tech person is in district, and Brian is away at a meeting that as your tech director, he has to attend. And then my building might be without any internet activity for an indefinite amount of time. There's a lot of learning loss. We spend so much money on this equipment. It's important to have the necessary support in place so that it can be used the right way. Another really big thing for me as a principal, digital presence. Right now, the vast majority of your community relations work is spare time of your admin team. Pam, with her 5 other jobs, does the district newsletter.
Which is kind of interesting, when your highest paid employee is spending time putting together a newsletter. May not be the best use of my time either, but I feel like it's really important to get information out to our communities.
I'm the one who puts stuff up on the Facebook page for the middle school. Our regular website, we do our best. I kind of put my curriculum time into that over the summer. But I think that we are increasingly asking our parents and community to interact with us digitally because it provides us efficiencies in other ways. When you go to register your kid for sports now, that all happens online. Reach My Teach, which I don't know if you've heard anything from families yet, but it's this new communication software we're using. It's awesome. It automatically connects with multiple parents in the same phone call. I've heard a bunch of positive feedback about that. But we are expecting our community to interact with us with technology. We need the additional support to make sure that's happening correctly and to keep things up to date and accurate. Everybody's working hard. I know that you respect us. I know you acknowledge that. And I also know that when I get a phone call from a parent because they're not clear about when a practice is, because something has changed, but your athletic director is at a conference they have to be at as your athletic director, who exists to update that? By hiring a tech person with the express responsibilities that I am describing, I think it will make everything else we're already paying for more efficient.
And so I'll touch back on one of those for a second. Talking about outage time, when there's network outage and things like that, part of the issue with our network outage time now is our network not only covers the internet access for our, like Jason mentioned, our online curriculum or anything else that they're using the internet for, it's also covering our phone systems. So anytime we have an extended period of time that the network is down, whether it's myself or whoever working on it with a couple of our providers, it always takes 2 people on site. So it's either myself or I'm waiting for one of our outside providers to get here. So during that time period, we have no internet, no phones, no nothing. So the longer that period goes, the harder it is for us to keep working, and we're getting the feedback from the parents of, well, you're telling me that my kid can't have their cell phone anymore, that's not a problem because they can call the school, but then on our end, we don't have the ability to keep that up or for the time we should. A few other things, improving instructional support. One thing that we do not do now that we really need to do, and it would help us long term, is improving the support that we're giving to the teachers or working with the teachers in their classrooms. We're giving them, thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment to use in their classrooms, but we don't have the time to work with them on how it can be used in their classrooms or what they can do with it to increase learning and things like that. Live streaming events and activities. We don't have enough people to cover after hours events, even during the school events, to be able to live stream from more than one building because our assemblies and things tend to happen on similar schedules. PD opportunities for staff. Right now, technology, where we're strapped, we don't have enough people to, if we put in a new software like Reach My Teach, we're relying on the vendor to provide that PD. Whereas instead of saying, hey, guess what, we're going to use Reach My Teach, I'll use that since that's our newest one, and then sending one of either myself or one of our building reps in to do that training. We're relying on the outside, which turns into a scheduling nightmare at times to get people in at the right times. Probably one of the big ones for me is data requests. And I say that because it kind of lands on me, and where I'm covering buildings at times, it makes it hard for me to dedicate the time to those data requests. The way things are right now in education, whether it be in the classroom or on the administrative side, whether it's through attendance, grading, reporting, anything like that, the data requests have increased significantly since I started. And that's why a lot of districts now are going to dedicated data managers. So we get requests, I'd say at least 2 to 3 a week on a normal schedule for attendance data in all the buildings, and then also with the bar program and stuff, we're providing a little more data around grading and failure rates and things like that. The problem is, like I say, right now where I'm the only one doing that, it makes that time period a lot longer, so either building admins or whoever the person is requesting is having to wait on me, and that's also hard for them to hit their deadlines when they're waiting for us. I'm sure I missed something.
Well, let me do the last one. So as we are, we're entering into an era of commitment to accountability, we have situations, right, where we have students who are working on their re-entry plans following expulsion. We have students who are doing some of these classes that are going to inevitably need to be online classes that we help provide them with. When there's an issue there, does the principal drop everything and fix it? Like, I'm grading the work for a student right now on a re-entry plan. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to assign the work. But as we as a district are trying to hold folks accountable, inevitably technology is going to be part of what makes that possible. I just feel like that plate of extra stuff that we're using technology to do is getting bigger and bigger. And for me, this is turning into a safety concern. And that's what makes me willing to open up my budget and talk about what I'm willing to prioritize this ahead of. I don't like it when the phones go out and I have to wait 3 hours before I can have a parent make a phone call to my building because we can't get 2 people to come over and fix the network. That makes me concerned. I think this is a really important position.
So I'm going to say, so this is what, we feel like this is really important, but we also know 6% is really hard. We're trying to tell you why we think as an administrative team that this is a priority for us as an administrative team. Enough of a priority that we just spent an agonizing amount of time making this cut list in order to swap out these things for this position. So we are willing to put up $93,194 of the $98,000 with the things that are listed here. So Charlie's additional contracted social work at the elementary school, field trips at the middle school. We took out $10,000 in legal fees.
What do you mean social?
Knock on wood, I will tell you, your superintendent has done a pretty good job making sure we're all following the contract, so we feel like we can at least do that. And then we looked at district new hardware, we would take some of that out, some central office software, power school seats, so one less person attending power school, middle school technology hardware, property insurance and vehicle insurance. We did hear from them that We had 12% in, and they said it was not going to be above 5, so we reduced it to 5. Looking at an extended school year programming at WFRP in Rumford, that student is transferring back to us, so we'll do the summer school program here, so we can take that out. We looked at 3-year average of course reimbursement, so this is kind of like roll the dice a little bit, because if everybody that said they're taking courses takes them, we'll have to come up with the money, but we'll cross that bridge if we have to. We feel like we can take out 10,000. School board, you have never asked for your stipends. We believe in leaving some in here, but 1,500, we figured we could come back. Equipment repair at the high school, 2,000. ELL costs, so we've looked at the average. We know that we have at least one ELL student for next year. We still left enough in so that we could have 2 or 3 students and be okay, but we felt like we could cut back. And then curriculum work wage. So the administrative team worked really hard to come up with these cuts, because we feel so strongly that we need to have this additional position. And if you are willing to make these cuts, then we would be at 5.39, including the network position offset by those cuts and the additional subsidy of 5408. And this is what the differences would be for the 4 towns.
Rachel?
Yes. Okay.
Go ahead, Rachel,
First
grab my
question
water.
was, is this a full-time position?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, so the second question, now, listen, I'm not comfortable cutting social work out of anything, because we already have issues with the fact that, you know how strongly I feel about your social study, your class, that's 50 children for 80 minutes. I appreciate the fact that this is a necessary, please don't think that I don't think this is not a necessary position. It's not that. But cutting out social work from anywhere in our district at this particular point is terrible, terrible. So,
Before you go on, clarity on that.
So we
Do
would
we
still
have
have
anybody?
a social worker in the building, full-time.
No, but
This is,
have we utilized that this year?
yes, we have a
Okay.
person in that position this year, but Charlie, we called Charlie again today when we were finalizing these cuts, and he said, for this additional position in tech, I would cut that position, absolutely.
right, but have you looked at this position, and is it 100% necessary for that position to be full-time at the beginning, at this time, without being able to like work it into like
We believe
part-time
it's,
into full-time?
we do believe it needs to be a full-time position.
So, and there was no other way to not cut crucial, okay, you're cutting office supplies and all that, can you go back to that other
I
screen?
sure can.
Sorry.
There's nothing on here that's not crucial.
I
Let me be
understand-
clear.
I
We would
understand.
prefer to be at the 6%, but we don't feel like the board could support it or our communities. Like, every year we go through this, like,
I understand that, but when you're cutting the needs of the children, again, when we already have a situation that I prefer to take care of first, now you're cutting another situation that's the needs of the children first. That's a problem. That, I can't get on board with that part. Like, this is crucial. This is the needs of the children. There could be an emergency come up. Yes, bus situations will happen. A situation just happened the other day, and that needs to be reviewed, not in this district, but I happen to see it. I get it. But is there not another way to find this chunk without taking away services from children?
Only if you go with the 6% figure.
right? There's nothing, we said this from the beginning, there's very little in this budget to cut. And I would say that this position, in my mind, and looking at what we have and what we're able to monitor on our laptops, because we are providing devices to every child.
But then go back to books, because right now you have a severe issue at the high school, and now you may create another issue at the elementary school. Why are we worried about tech when every child in this community, they can afford the highest technology phone possible, tablets, computers at home? Why are we doing it? Why? Go back to basic reading, writing, and arithmetic from a book. I'm sorry, but we have bigger problems than that.
I appreciate your
Carl,
comments.
I got no problem with cutting social work at the elementary school, if that's what the principal, the administration come up with it, that they would rather have technology than social work. Obviously, they probably don't need the social work as much as the technology.
But then
I
you
could,
get
I
what
could
you're
totally live with all that stuff right there myself.
So we need both. We're telling you, like, we
Yes,
would love to
because
have
then
both.
you get them
But in
based on the
a
behavior
circumstance where
problem.
you can't have both, we have to prioritize what we believe is in the best interest of the district. And I will tell you,
But now the
you know
children-
as well as I know that there's a community pretty close to us where a student went missing, and it's fallen off their devices. They were online talking with people and they went missing. Like, we need to monitor these devices. We're putting them in the hands of our students.
Then
We need to
put
know
them
what
in
they're
the
doing.
hands of them.
You would put your entire student body at a deficit going off to college if they did not have access to these.
So you have them at home.
Actually, a lot of our kids do not.
You want to bet? Everybody in Carthage has them.
I can tell you there, by looking at the internet surveys that we do, there are a number of kids in our district who
And
do
what
not have
starts-
internet access and who do not have devices of their own.
What starts at elementary school goes right back to Jason behavior problems.
I think Bruce has something.
All right, Bruce.
I mean, we have put in place admin to oversee. Again, I agree that we hate to see anything cut, but the problem is that it comes to give and take. What is going to be the best priority to it? You guys are telling us that you're willing to make these sacrifices for something as a positive gain. And yes, unfortunately, our devices that we have put thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth to allow our students have access to it, because unfortunately, that's today's technology. Everybody has it. And with us having our school laptops, you're able to monitor and see everything that goes on versus saying you're going to let them take the devices from home and bringing them in. So if having another person to monitor these things and do all the lists that you had, if you back up a couple slides when you had what they're going to have this new person being able to see, you're going to allow this tech person to really monitor and keep things up to speed, allow things, as Jason said, phones go out, you're going to get someone there to address it. If you have data requests, you're going to be able to get your information. If we get, the only thing I kind of frizzled a little bit about is live streaming, but so be it. But looking at this whole thing of what gain you're going to get, because if we've got these devices, we've got to support these devices, we've got to support the technology, and it seems like it's a nice way to offset, because if we try to leave everything in and trust it, admin, that we can sacrifice this for this year, maybe next year we can add a little bit stuff back in. Who knows what finance is going to be? But right now, we've got to look at what's going to be the best priority for our districts, for our students, and for our community to support us. And if we try to put all this in and not look at some type of way to offset prices, you're going to end up with a budget where you're going to have people turning it down, and then we're back at square one. So I think this is a good alternative to get us to move forward.
I'll just have one quick note, because I know it came up at the last board meeting that I wasn't here at. I know it came up, the question, and I think Brad's the one that brought it up, but asking about compliance, if there was anything we were worried about that this position could help keep us in compliance on. A couple things that come to mind, there's some insurance requests that have come through asking us to create some policies and procedures in-house for things that we haven't had time to do yet.
Well, I said they
There's-
don't, nobody offers them.
Right.
Nobody gives you a
No,
sample.
these are ones that we would have to
Yeah,
actually write from
but you gotta,
scratch.
but you have something to work with.
Um,
Somebody has them.
The other pieces are the Facebook or social media policy that you guys put forward at the beginning of the year.
I know you haven't.
We haven't done anything with those yet. So we have staff that are not following the policy because we, as a department, haven't had
Because
time.
they don't have to do it.
Well,
They do
because
what
we
they
don't
want.
have
Well,
somebody
that's
that,
because we don't have the
Talk about it right
time,
now.
yeah, we don't have the time to monitor and or help them create those accounts. So that's part of the reason why.
So every Facebook presence for the school is done by the person, not by you.
For classrooms, yes.
So every
Currently.
Facebook you have no access to for the Dixfield. So
No,
you
there-
have
there is
none
one
for
that I
the
have.
administrator class, you have nothing.
For the admins, in terms of the schools, I do, because the schools were created by us.
Okay.
But the individual classroom ones, or like the
Or
class
sports
of,
teams or clubs.
right, sports
Well, yeah,
teams,
I know
clubs,
that,
anything
right,
like
with
that, we do
But
not,
by
because we just.
policy, we're not supposed to.
Yeah, I know that,
Correct.
because
But we
I,
haven't
And
had.
Like
we
I
want to
said,
have control of them.
Yeah,
It's
we
just
want
not
it.
capacity.
We just don't have the
We have the
capacity to
capacity.
do that right now.
So
okay,
you will have the capacity if you do
If we
this?
had an additional position.
Because that was
yes.
addressed in a letter today that there was, and that's a problem. So you will be able to control the situation.
As much as we can control it, yes. There are some things that, I mean, ultimately, there's no control, but there are certain things, yes.
Natalie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I very much appreciate the work that went into identifying and kind of weighing what difficult choices, right? Like, there's not a good choice. And I appreciate framing it from a safety perspective, from a compliance perspective, because when we look at it kind of on the face of, okay, it's a position, what are the benefits, what are the needs, what are the requirements that are being met or not. With this and trading off, I'm in support, because I agree with what Bruce said, that I'm not in the buildings every day, running a building, running a department, so that's what we have a team here for. And if you guys are saying that this is the best direction, I know I have heard some feedback about some phone outages and stuff recently, and an ability or inability to contact kids, schools, whatever, where we don't have access to kiddos with their cell phones during the day, which I agree with. But yeah, so I guess I recognize it's a difficult choice. I'm not excited about bringing forth a 6% budget. I do prefer being closer to 5%, given everything else that's going on with our town and county budgets. So I would support this in terms of removing some of these dollars from the budget and reallocating that for the tech position.
Liz,
Well, I'd love to go back to just books.
Yeah.
I'd love to do away with technology.
I
But
agree.
realistically, can't do. You know, as much as I'd like to say, okay, we won't have any more computers K through 5 or whatever, you know, you're not going to prepare them at all, and that's not the world we live in, which unfortunately is not a good thing all the time. And getting rid of counseling, yeah, that's a tough one, but we have not always had counseling, and I think there's other ways that we can deal with that issue, hopefully, with administration.
So let me be clear, there's still a social worker.
yeah, but he needed the extra,
He
so
did
it
need the
was
extra, and
not.
I would love to keep the extra.
Because the extra's probably up the hill, up here now, but there's still more, you know, so.
But as far as the budget, I've already heard people say, well, where's the budget falling? Is
Yeah.
it 5, above 5, below 6? And they'll say, you're not going to get it, you're not going to get it. So, yeah, if you can get your technology by cutting those out, I think it's still, you're going to have to do it. And I support it.
Okay, my problem is, you gave us priorities, and you had a priority list, and we went with the 2. That's 2 positions we're picking up already. And then the priority of the stipend, which you said was vital. And that was at the beginning. So now we're here when we're supposed to vote, and you're coming in saying, well, this is a priority too, but we're gonna cut all this, which, you know, you guys have to do, but you gotta look at the scenario. If this budget doesn't pass, we're gonna cut more. It's not gonna be, because no way would a 6 go in any of the towns.
I don't even know if a 5.
I know, because we put some value in things. I think it bothers me more that at the last minute, you're prioritizing this. And another comment is, there is valid points, but when you say, oh, they're great to interact with the community, we took the phones away from the kids so they would interact with each other. How are you interacting on digital with the community? That doesn't work for a lot of people. I know people that don't even look at Facebook and don't look at the other things. And we try other means. So, you know, and I watched my granddaughter, who 1 through 4 grades, then everything on 5th grade, middle school, is all digital, the homework, everything. How did that work during COVID? It failed. A lot of kids, there were some kids who did extremely well and others who didn't. I thought we used to get tutors, but now I guess we're paying for internet. Now, if we do some tutoring, you know, if we expel a kid, now we're doing it all digital, correct?
So we still have tutors, they meet with their tutors.
But everything's
Their work has to be
online.
on- Well, some of it is hard copy, but some of it is online.
Okay, so because I just, them reasoning doesn't go fly with me. The reasoning of, like, the policy we put, which Brian recommended, yes, we need, but I know he has no time. The data everybody asks for everything, and when is he supposed to do that? But I still think there's a balance, and it bothers me that it is on the night we approve the budget.
So I just want to be clear that from the beginning, we said
I was
SRO,
on-
ELO, Dean of Students, and this position. Those were our administrative priorities. And when we started as the administrative team from last time to this time, like really thinking about like what's going to happen if we don't get this position, we just really felt like it was, we are responsible for trying to do what's best for the district, and so we're bringing it to you today.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Just, I hear what Bruce says, and I heard this last July or last year when I sat in listening, that, you know, we have to do this and we'll see what happens in between, and if we can figure it out, we'll figure it out. But really what happens when the situation grows a little more, you know, problematic in the high school because of that situation that we have going on, or now you want to take this away and the situation grows a little more problematic at the elementary school, what is your plan to rectify it, because you don't have any funds at that particular point to rectify the situation? Ultimately, the children should come first, and in a way, tech is a problem for the children, I get it. But right now you have seated children that the problem will be a problem. So what do you have as plan B to rectify that?
So just what we did before, when we had a social worker with no contract to social worker, if we would ask for outside help, like we would ask the parents to have outside people come in and offer to have spaces in our schools. Like, we would do everything in our power to get them the help that they needed. And all this,
What about this situation that's occurring now, and what if it's more next year? With having that many children at 80 minutes in a basically study hall, just,
as we explained from the beginning, like we would be asking, we have, in the 9 years that you've been 56, and actually before that when you were part of 10, you have stripped and stripped and stripped each year, and we're looking to try to grow back what we need to have in RSU 56. I believe I started this year, like you're at a tipping point, like where are you a viable district, because we have so little left here, because we have worked hard to keep our budgets down year after year, and I think we needed to in order to keep moving forward. But now is the time we need to start growing. And we always, as an administrative team, we look at like, what do we have? How is it best used? Where is this money best spent? And if I could have it all, I would have a full-time employed social worker, second one at the elementary school. We don't have the funds to do that. Maybe next year we can add something else in. We said earlier, like, we want to keep SRO and ELO, and then maybe next year we come to you and say, yes, we want another teacher at the high school.
but that's another year though, like they.
Well, you can't do it all in 1 year. It took
Right,
many
but
years to
these
get us to
children
this
suffer
point.
for another year. So what happens now, we created a problem for the next year's children. So this year, those children had a problem. Now next year, the next children will have a problem. So we never really resolved anything, we just let them just have the problem.
Jason?
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and I trust me, I shouldn't even be talking down to high school because I appreciate the amount of support you're giving for the fact that we do need teachers. But even I, like if I'm prioritizing my concerns going into next year, like the foundation of sort of our first line when we're looking at priorities is sort of the safety and compliance piece. And what was shocking to me this year, going into banning phones, was the absolute need for more monitoring on laptops. You all, like, I think the phone piece has been just a huge, has had a huge positive impact on the high school. I don't know if you see it in the middle school, but definitely at the high school. But I do, like, if I were to prioritize what we need going into next year at the high school level and what's reasonable, it's gotta be around safety and technology use, and then looking at future.
But what does that sound like when you say that? Oh, I need someone to monitor the technology laptop that I gave to these children, but I have children sitting for 80 minutes that are just thumbling around and nothing to do. 50 children in one room with nothing to do for 80 minutes. So what does that sound like to me? That sounds a little like poor judgment, like on education for our children.
Right, and there'll be a couple things we're creatively doing that when I have an opportunity to present later on, I'll show you some things that we've come up with to support more academics. But also, at the table, we talked about that ELO position. A huge part of that position, and it's already doubled the amount on his caseload from last year to this year. It was 9 to now about 19, where those are kids coming out of learning labs to get internships, job shadows, and things like that. And so, yeah, I mean, it's not going to be fixed overnight, but part of that adding the ELO position is to support with the kids in learning labs.
Jason?
If I'm out of line, tell me and I'll be quiet. I agree with almost everything that was said in opposition to my own opinion. However, I see not the world I wish we lived in, but the world we actually live in, presenting risks to the kids in my school and my ability to run my school. And I think that we are playing with fire, not having the capacity to handle this.
I agree.
So, and I will take some blame for being the mucky last minute problem maker guy. But I'll tell you that, you know.
No,
we
you're
all
as a
keep
group.
talking Because
You're
we
a group.
care about it.
No,
all
you're a
keep
group.
talking And we care about it. And it was always a priority. And I'll say personally, I had my hopes about health insurance. It didn't go quite the way I wished it would.
Howard.
And when it came back to, all right, are we ready to do this? I couldn't look in the mirror and say, yeah, I am. When the phones go down for hours on end, and I can't get things coming back, but I didn't build the infrastructure. I can't call Viacom and say, I wish you didn't put it online. And
I know,
there are things about, Rachel, there are things about the reality of the school setting that I'm not in control of.
Yeah.
And I just see so much risk here, and at the end of the day, like, we may have different judgment, and you may think I have poor judgment, but I don't have poor
I don't
judgment.
think that at all.
I see
Nobody
this
thinks that.
as an important step to protect the safety of the schools and avoid things I don't even understand, but I read about happening in other school districts with security breaches and data loss and all these other things. And no matter how big your school is, or how small your school is, the state reports are the state reports. They take just as long whether you have 700 kids or 70,000 kids. And Brian's not available to do some of these other really important things because he's doing those things. So I apologize if it comes across as frustrating, but I promise you it's only good intentions that brought us to get ourselves in trouble by asking for this.
I have two things. First, I will say, I asked my daughter, graduating 98, she was in senior year 3 study hall. She did it on purpose because she could hit the road. Because she had, she did AP, the ones, and there was less offering. She didn't want to go to Farmington, and she didn't have the choice of digital college. So it's not something new. that they purposely, but I know there's a lot, we have lost a lot.
Did you say 98?
98, but
That
they
was a
had
long
less,
time ago.
they have more classes now than they did back then,
Okay.
even when my son
It was a
was
long
here.
time.
And my only other question is, the finance committee did not want to put it up. That was it, correct? No, you,
Because you didn't want.
when
to
you had
post
the
it.
discussion, you didn't want 6 points, 6 point something.
Right.
But were you guys against the position too, or, I just want your thoughts, your initial? Because it went to you
When
guys
we met at the finance committee, none of this that you're seeing here was presented to us.
presented, okay.
So it's kind of,
New to you too,
it's
okay.
new to me to see this, because we were there for a couple of hours for the meeting for finance. And at that time, we were looking at whether we wanted to go up back to the 6% increase. And the finance committee at that time agreed unanimously that we did not want to see it go up. So we were strong on, sorry, we wish we could add this position in, but we are not going to support it. Now, all of a sudden, there is some loopholes that allow us to support it if we want to take these other alternatives and move these cuts that admin has supported. I like the give and take, but I'm kind of concerned of what everyone else is going to think when they look give and take. How did we all of a sudden get this take away to add something back in?
Yeah.
My whole support, again, is keeping it down in the budget. And this does a way to allow us to stay at the same budget that we're at. How well are we willing to support that we want to lose this part to support to take another person on? Well, right now, it seemed like a give and take for it, but it's frustrating for me to think that as a business standpoint, when we were meeting at Finance Committee, we weren't told that we were looking further to look something to do.
So we weren't at that time. Like, we all went off for vacation, and we came back together yesterday, and we were like, this doesn't sit right with us. Like, it doesn't sit right. And you pay us to think about what we think is best for the district, and we talked about this. Like, what are they gonna think when we come today and say, we'd like to take this stuff out to add that in? But honestly, I feel like it's the best decision for the district, and you pay me to try to make the best decisions for the district. So even though it's last minute, I felt like we should bring it forward. I mean, we legitimately said, should we just leave it alone? Because they're gonna feel like, what are we doing at the last minute? But I couldn't leave it alone. Jason couldn't leave it alone. Like, we all sat there and said, we can't do this. Like, we feel like, and it was agony. Like, we spent a lot of time, like, where could this money come from if we were gonna say we think it should go in? And so here we are.
And a lot of those things, like I can just quickly mention the technology items on that list. If I don't get the position, I'm gonna need the money, those dollar figures to cover the outside people coming in. Essentially what I did by putting some things up there, I just shuffled, instead of having some technology support money in there, I shuffled things around to make it work. But
And legal fees
without the position, I would still need
Are we
those
all right?
numbers.
So legal fees, you're asking me about legal fees?
Are we all right?
We've had the same amount in since we started.
Okay.
And again, I've worked really hard to make sure that I'm following the contracts, and I work hard to look at, I call MSMA first, because they have
Right.
people that experience, like, I work hard at keeping us out of the legal fee issues. So we're gonna go from 35,000 to 25,000 in the legal fee line. We've not used that much in each year, so,
Usually only special education. would be
well,
in there.
and then sometimes if
Separate
you have a
line?
contract that
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
get, if you have a contract that doesn't, that goes to mediation or something, you might end up.
Unless
with it.
something drastically
Right,
changed.
so
that
we
should-
felt like,
Yeah, no.
honestly, we're like, most of this stuff we would probably put back in next year with this new ED 279 if we get additional funding. Because these were not simple, and it's really like, this is the best worst case, because it's the best worst thing we can do, or whatever. I don't know how you want to word it. But it's not like we sat and said all of this stuff could come out. It wasn't like that. It was really like, we spent hours coming up with this, and we couldn't even get to the full 98,000, but we spent hours. And again, as your superintendent, I feel like Our job as administrative and my job as superintendent is to bring to you what we think is best for the district. And so,
Bruce?
hence we're standing here tonight.
So I'm going to repeat myself that I started out with, is that, yes, I agree that we have a very good administrative team, from the superintendent to our building administrators to our technology director, that's guiding us in the best support for our district and our students and our community. Again, it is from a personal standpoint and from a legal standpoint, looking at it as a board member, all of a sudden, all of these things came up. But it sounded like you guys really felt strong about this from the admin team, that you're willing to take this extra step to make this thing work. Again, looking at all the benefits that we would get of having an additional tech person in there, seems like it far outweighs what we're taking away at this stage. Nothing that we're taking away do I like to see happen, but it is an alternative to do it. And if we're gonna move this budget forward, if we don't do something to offset things, it's not gonna move forward. So, from the standpoint, again, I support putting another person in if the admin is willing to support what they're looking at to do here.
And my last comment is, I know we are working hard towards discipline, but all principals are really, and we want to accountability for it, because enough is enough. Because sometimes they've got to learn it, or they're not going to learn it out there, because sometimes their accountability is not there. So looking at it from that, because I know when we had the extra person, but you were still overwhelmed, but because everybody was home. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
thought of
Yeah,
that.
and the difference was at that point, we had 740 some odd devices that were all at home.
Yeah.
And trying to do remote support is
Yes.
very difficult when you're trying to catch up with parents at all hours of the day and night, and yeah, that was rough.
Liz?
Just a question. We have a new position for the SRO. What kind of a ticket is that money-wise?
It was like 80,000.
Oh,
How much?
80,000.
Is that it? It's 80, that's it for the SRO? There's no vehicle involved?
No, because we contract, so that's our full bill from,
So
that's better than I thought it was going.
going
better than I
forward,
thought
that's
it was
what
gonna be, too.
that's what's on the
as soon
budget?
as they gave it to me, I signed it and sent it back. Don't think about this anymore.
Okay, so that's, I'm just curious, I was curious how it came out. I thought it was going to be a lot more than that.
I did too, but it's not.
Yeah.
If you look in your full budget that I gave you, you won't see, no, I know.
Oh, it's not in there, right?
Well, no, it is in there, but you won't see, like, if you're looking for
Split it
80,000,
up.
you won't see it, because it's split up between DES, DMS, and DHS.
Okay.
With
And
the
it's
bulk of it
spelled
going
right
to
out,
the
school
DHS.
resource officer.
Okay. Bruce?
So if we potentially move forward with this person, is that a place that we wait till the budget has passed?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because my next question's going to be is, if we don't have a budget that passes, we're going to be coming back to the table to see what else we're going to
Yes,
cut.
we will.
My second question goes with it, is that you must have seen the newest article on the news, that next year, the starting salaries for all of our teachers is at $50,000.
I
Do we
thought we
have
had 3
anyone that's going to affect
It's usually a
that?
3-year
3 years.
implementation plan. That's usually what they do.
It's a tiered step into that 50,000.
By 3 years, they gotta be
Is what
starting
you-
pay 50.
I want to, you're going to have to read.
I will read it again, but that's typically what has happened.
Yeah, but they looked at what they had talked about, the governor's, that she signed a supplemental budget, and according to what I understood, unless I misunderstood the article this morning, is that starting next year, the starting salary is $50,000.
No.
Is that correct?
Not to my knowledge.
I
To
thought
my
it was
knowledge,
free.
it's going to be a
never been
stepping
able to
stone
do
to get
that.
there,
But
but I can look at the full bill and not
That's
the
what it said
new.
this morning, that's why I was wondering, wow, it seemed like a big step in 1 year, so.
So I'm going to move us on. So this one, as I said, would be at 5.39 instead of 5.36. And then here's just previous comparisons of the increase on 100,000, which will need to be recalculated with the new numbers, because we have new numbers.
Full 2021.
So this is just a timeline, and I will say at the end of this, so in my opinion, you have three options tonight. 5.36, as was outlined previously, 6% by adding the position in of IT specialist, or 5.39 with that in, with the removal of the things we put up there. So those
Quick
are the-
question. Now, we got money for the middle school bar, so are we still doing the stipend position to have it in place? Because you're still gonna have a bar leader.
Good for
Yeah.
you, Jason.
So,
Right, so the bar money gives us the coach.
Oh,
which
okay,
is
that's
great.
it. Okay.
But for the other, like the attendance work, the additional work outside of the school day,
Yeah, the coordinators did.
that is still dean stuff.
Okay,
So we're still getting that additional, it's just actually way better because now the first year the dean exists, they will have the support of the coach and all the programming that goes with it.
okay, all right. And that is in our budget, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion. Bruce?
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with a 5.39% budget.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor? Okay. And that's because we have faith in you.
well, I hope you
All of
we
you.
work hard.
And it isn't just you, Jason. You guys are a group. We don't, you just go out for the battle, that's all. Okay,
It does start in 29.
Yeah, 29.
yeah.
45 for 27, 28, 47, 50.
And I don't know who we,
And then 20, and then in 2029, 50.
oh, now we are looking at motion, warrant articles.
See, I read this morning, she came in and said something on budget and salary's gonna be 50.
I got just
Go ahead.
a comment. Are we going to be able to find somebody to train or are you willing to properly
Usually a
use this?
full-time we can
You
find.
think we're going to have somebody?
I bet we'll find,
You sure?
we
We
actually
found
had pretty good applicants lately. We have to sign.
Is that what the problem would have been? If they did
That's next
part-time, it would have been hard. I wonder
For
why.
next
But the
year.
work is full.
Do we have anyone on the board that's less than 25?
Any teachers?
Okay.
Well, we'd have.
Mary gonna explain, right?
I don't
Mary's
think
gonna
it's
do this one.
required,
Okey dokey.
I would say, yes, we did. I didn't see any coming very fresh out of college.
All right, so the finance committee met, and this is what the finance committee thought that should be put forth. I don't remember, Barb, do I usually go through all four and then you vote as a group on
I
them?
think we voted as a group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So the first one is the one that you voted to have in the warrant, so let me back up. These are some of the warrant articles that will be in the newspaper and they get voted on here at the budget meeting. This isn't anything that goes on the ballot. So the first one is about transferring amounts exceeding 5% between cost centers. Any question about that one?
Oh,
That's,
did you
uh,
get
Bruce,
through
did you
this?
pass it
I'll
along?
tell you.
Oh,
Oh, Carl?
Again, he was on his computer. I gave it to him.
Oh, right, okay.
Does everybody else have them?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rachel, do you need a discussion on that one? Okay.
Good.
Because I know
We do it every
you
year,
do.
the same amount.
Okay, number two is a new one that you haven't seen before. As you know, we haven't locked in on fuel prices yet, which is very concerning. And the finance committee was concerned and had me rough up some numbers when the finance committee met with, what the going prices of the number two and diesel were at that time. And then asked me to check with Kenny the next day and see what he thought. So fortunately, Kenny's prices were lower than what the finance committee came up with. But still,
They went up again today.
thanks, Carl. So, with those prices that Kenny gave me the day after that finance committee meeting, if we locked in now, which obviously isn't what we're trying to do, but we are short $148,000 in the budget for fuel.
See, we knew that when you asked that question at the finance committee, we already knew that all this was happening. So
Okay.
that's why
So where are we transferring?
So I'll explain that.
Thank you.
So this article establishes the fuel reserve fund and it's three parts. We would have to establish the fuel reserve fund, include a warrant article to transfer X amount to the fuel reserve fund, and to allow the school board to expend it. Because if we just establish it and don't put any money in it, it does no good. Or if we establish it and put money in it, but don't give the school board the authority to expend it, it still does no good. So this figure, the 140,619, comes from, if you remember at this time last year, from the 22-23 fund balance, after putting 277.5 in, like we do for every year moving forward, there was $170,960 left. And there was a warrant article, and the townspeople voted to allow the board to transfer up to the $179.60 from available fund balance to the capital reserve fund. But you as a board have not voted to do that, and if it doesn't actually get put into the capital reserve fund, it's still basically up for grabs to be used for something. So the reason that it is 140,619 was because the finance committee decided that it made sense to use 30,341 of that to add to the amount that was already set aside for the next year, the 277.5, leaving the 140,619, so that it wouldn't be able to be used for the capital reserve. But with the situation as it is, the finance committee felt it made sense to put it into the fuel reserve fund.
Makes sense.
So we have money from 2023, you said 170 something.
Right. There was 170,960 on this. I know you can't really see it, but if you remember this running record of carryover that I've passed out before.
Yeah.
So that was the amount that was left over after putting 277.5 aside for the 27-28 budget.
So was that the money we usually keep to do the following year? No.
No, we still have the 277.5.
Yeah, we still,
put in.
okay.
We
I know
actually-
for,
We actually put enough money ahead for 28 to 29.
yeah,
So we've moved forward with keeping a reserve account starting for each year for the next few years.
okay.
The extra money that's left over that Mary's talking about is money that we found after we went through the whole budget of money that was left over of what we could designate what we wanted to do with it. Like we had a technology fund, we had
Yeah,
money that we did the garage,
we had garage.
gym floor. Now
We
this
have
money that
few-
we're doing, unfortunately, fuel has skyrocketed. So we looked at making a new warrant article, making a reserve fund for fuel and putting this money into it. Now, let's get lucky and say by next fall, or somewhere in the summer, this conflict across seas peters out and prices at least come back to reasonable. We may have this money sitting there, and then we can figure out what we do with that at a later time. But if it stays where we're at, our building's gonna go cold.
We also talked about using this to get that position, if it was possible somehow, with the fuel.
I know that
Yeah.
what you
Well,
call
with
it.
the- yeah, there was some stipulations or something, but with the
That
fuel
makes
hanging
sense.
the way it is, you
Yeah.
can't, that could really hurt the budget.
I'm hoping still, I think, because this is not just hurting our country, it's hurting the world.
Didn't interrupt you, Mary.
That's okay.
Just figure support it.
Any questions on this warrant?
Okay. So number 3 isn't new. We've had these type of articles before, either for the technology reserve or the bus garage reserve. And if you remember, 2 different years, the townspeople voted to move $200,000 into the technology reserve fund. And then there was a vote to allow to expend up to $250,000. We expended $248,000 and 248,001. But that vote also said, because it was an E-rate project, any money received back from E-rate would be put back into the technology reserve account. And we received 93,403 back. So right now, in the tech reserve account is $245,401.
How much?
$245,401. So there's this request that I believe Brian talked to the finance committee about, and is standing behind me in case any of the rest of you want to know more about this, but he's we're asking to expend up to $160,000 from technology reserve.
And the finance committee was for that?
Yeah, this was like I don't know, it was quite a while ago. It was
Okay.
those new boards and we were partners with Winthrop and, correct?
Yeah, but isn't that the Russ grant? So this would be more money.
So the boards went through the Rust grant. This request is to look at replacing and installing audio equipment in the larger spaces, similar to what we did in the high school gym about a year and a half ago now. So looking at doing some upgrades here in this room, the gym and the cafeteria at the middle school, and the cafeteria probably at the elementary school as well. Some of our larger projection spaces.
Do we have any, who's due next year for laptops?
Next year's laptops are the high school. And we have
High
that.
school, and you were still reviewing, look to do a,
So the hard part with that, we do have the first of a 4-year lease built into the high school tech budget for next year. It's up in the air at the moment. The state hasn't decided on their, haven't awarded their contracts yet to the vendors. So what I have in there,
have you decided laptop or the?
my goal,
No.
is assuming the state approves it, I want to go with the MacBook the new MacBook Neo for our students. It's essentially an iPad and a laptop shell. But I don't know if the state's going to approve that yet for their device list. So if they do not, then we'll go with the MacBooks. We'll continue with
All right.
MacBooks. But
Okay, sorry, I understand, but now you got, any
So-
other questions on that one? Now the last one.
And I do want to point out in italics, number 2 and 3, and this is just how the warrant articles will read in the paper that goes out, that approval of those 2 articles doesn't increase the budget, because that's money that's already set aside. And then number 4 is just the one that you've had for, I don't know,
Well,
3 or 4
let's say,
years at
yeah.
least, about if we receive additional subsidy. And I just want to mention that the extra 54,080 that Pam talked about wouldn't fall into this category because we're including it in as state subsidy right in the budget.
Any questions on the warrants? Could I get a motion to be voted that we would have these warrants?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor? Thank you.
Joe, Mary.
Oh, we have to do this. Vote to designate funds from FY20 elementary math textbooks from 21 and the audit by, explain.
Okay, so these are, to be honest, the superintendent has the authority to designate funds to pay for things that, because you didn't use all your funds. I have never done that because I feel like I should have full transparency, so I always bring it to the board
Yeah.
to go. So the math textbooks are the math textbooks that Jason has already talked to the board about and we've approved.
Yeah.
And this is how we're going to pay for that one upfront cost to get all the books for the first year because they were budgeted for. And then, yeah, and then Mary will explain the audit.
Okay.
So, as you know, the 23-24 audit was the one that took like a year and a half to
Yeah.
finish. So normally, the 23-24 audit would be paid for in the 24-25 budget, because it's always obviously the next year. And because it was so late getting done, we only paid $9,800 of the bill in 24-25. So by designating this other amount, it takes it out of the proper year, because otherwise, then the 24-25 that's being paid 25-26, we'd have to pay both years in the same year, and it would really overexpend that line.
Yeah, and didn't the audit also say how we always spend leftover money?
And this is the way they want
Yeah.
to do it. Yes.
That we approve it, not just do it. So, all right, could I get a motion for that? And a second?
Second.
Comments or questions on that? Everybody's got that? All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, second reading of policy ADF, school district commitment to learning results. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
There's no changes since the first reading. All those in favor? Thank you. Second reading of policy AEEC, accountability, reporting to the board and public. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second?
No changes since the first reading. All those in favor? Thank you. All right. Second reading of revisions to BBAA, board member authority and responsibility. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second?
No changes since the first reading. All those in favor? Thank you. Second reading of policy EI, insurance program / risk management. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second?
No changes since the first reading. All those in favor? Thank you. Second reading of policy EIR, return to work and reasonable accommodations, administrative procedure. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
And a second? No changes since the first reading. All those in favor? Second reading of policy GBJAA, bloodborne pathogen policy. Could I get a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
No changes since the first reading. All those in favor? Thank you. Lastly, second reading of new policy, JN School and Community Service. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second? No changes since the first reading. All those in favor? Thank you. Now it's board member comments. Go ahead, Rachel.
First, I just do want to address Brandy's comments about the Facebook users.
What's that?
Brandy's letter that was sent to everybody. The concerning part of the letter was about the staff that are using Facebook to contact students. And we did kind of discuss that, but that is a concern. And I don't know who handles that, but there was a letter sent out.
So to be clear, the JMG teacher is the one that said that once students graduate from high school, she continues to follow them and check in with them. At that point, she uses Facebook and her cell phone, which she would not do with a personal Facebook with a student while they're here in school.
But that's not what Brandy's letter said. Brandy's
Because
letter,
we do use Facebook for our
yeah.
communication here.
Is there
But that's
one,
not one-on-one. Like, I think we should be really clear that that's not like,
Personal.
well, a one-on-one personal communication.
well,
That's
I
like
want
a
to
classroom
just
or.
say that there are some staff that are inappropriate Facebook posts, and I do not know how you monitor that. So,
On their private Facebook pages?
yes,
We
so.
would not have any monitoring.
We don't have any
So if
legally
students
anything.
have access to it, it is concerning. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, because
So-
we've specified even in
We
policy
have a policy that
and
they're not.
protocol that they are not supposed, and we do say, we know some are relatives or stuff, but we
Mhm.
still, that,
So I just wanted to say.
yeah.
I just wanted to say. Okay, also, I did go to, I did give the high school and I did give Mountain Valley a good 2 community service events over the course of April. I don't know what happened in the communication or non-communication of the students who wanted to do it, didn't do it, but Mountain Valley showed up with a bus full of students and Darrow showed up with none. And I want to express that I would hope that in the future with communication and other things, because what I do outside of here is a nonprofit organization that provides teens with a lot of community service and building team skills and things like that. And it was nice that I have met with Noah, Mr. I don't know his last name. And he's so open to like all these experiences that the teens could get, and I want to work with them in getting them out there. We had an event at Mount Blue State Park where the teens did do things like that, and I would like to see Darrow get more involved with these things out in the community. They were really good events, but nobody coordinated and got things together, and it was a little disheartening. And so I would like to see that. And the other thing that I wanted to ask about was who is in charge of school zones out front? Because there is a problem with the timing. Does not match the pick up and drop off, and I have to pass through there during the 1:30 to 2:30 to go to Rumford to pick up my little one. And it doesn't match when the buses are coming in and coming out, and there's a lot of chaos going on out there. And kids cutting through when, and no one's observing, obviously, the school zone. And I don't know who deals with the signs, but it needs to be looked at because the bus drivers are not even observing their own speed. So I wanted to address that and see where we can take it from there.
My only comment, I saw the kids, elementary kids, I saw Chloe outside. I saw you on TV today for the weather people. And they said, look up, Chloe. She kept looking down. She was reading it. Trying to think any other.
I have one.
Go ahead.
So I think one of the areas that we discussed as a board back probably in the winter was posting of stipend positions and trying to do it in a timely way. I don't think we've done either our fall or winter coaches. Can we please get on that?
Yep.
And can we also please check the status of payment on stipends to make sure that that's been done in a fairly timely way after the seasons are done?
Because I know,
Natalie, I'll talk to you about that since I pay them.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to make sure, I've heard rumors that maybe there were some that hadn't, and I'm not sure if
I
that's
will
been
talk with you
rectified.
personally afterwards.
Perfect, thank you. And yeah, we're behind because summer programs should have already been arranged and stuff, and we
oh,
we
absolutely.
don't have coaches hired or even posted, so.
Yeah. Any other comment? Oh, we have new doors.
Yeah, we do, both ends.
Both ends to boot? Where'd that money come from?
So I can answer that. So the grant for school safety that we have the SRO paid out of.
You had leftovers.
Because we were quite a while getting the commissioners to approve it. And so we didn't pay for a period of time. And so we ended up with some leftover money, and I asked them if we could use it to do other safety things, like placing doors at the high school, and they approved it. So we have a couple more that will be done as well, but we got those two ends.
Oh, that needed it. Holy moly, did that side door need it.
So no local money, it was all out of grant.
Well, I remember you saying, but I said, oh my God, we have new doors. I'm so excited.
We're excited to get new doors.
Well, them have been a bust for a while, and I think they didn't even last when we first. Any other comments? Oh, Bruce, then Carl,
No,
you
let Carl.
choose.
Go ahead. Okay, this, Jason fired this up on me here. It's good, it's a good thing, it's a good thing. I don't know, years and years ago, we were digging potatoes in a field that never had potatoes. All these Indian artifacts come up. And we had this old hippie working for us, and he knew what they were. We thought they were rocks. So we took them all, quite a few of them actually. We sent them, they went to the museum in Boston. They were all dated and authenticated. And then we have found more since. And we had them all in a shoebox. UMF had them on display for years. So I decided I was going to get them into the library of the high school. So I give them to Dan Hart. He was a principal.
Oh dear, this is a long time ago. Okay, keep
Dan
going.
Hart went to Bethel. He gave them to Rolly. Rolly put them in the bottom of the locker
And left them there.
for 2 years there. So then I had to go give a speech about Indians because I actually by accident know a little bit about Native Americans. I ain't call them Indian. So I took it to the elementary school, and fifth grade would always do Native American studies. So I showed them all there, and then I left them there. Well, they lost a couple.
Oh, no.
So I got them back there, and then I had an operation, and I was going to physical therapy at Smart Care, and they had a display there. Lauren Hebert, not
Yeah,
that
Lauren,
Lauren
the
Hebert,
other Lauren,
not
yeah.
that Lauren, the other Lauren Hebert. And he already has a thing out here on geology, if you look.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, here, get these, can you help me get these into the high school or something? Sure. Well, he took some home and took some and left some on display there. So I called him up after Jason asked me to give Diversity Day speech on, I'm not really sure what I'm talking about. I'm gonna talk about agriculture.
Great.
History of agriculture, like the corn shop I burned and stuff like that.
Those
And,
things go.
So where are
So
we
anyway, I
now?
have them all in a box, and he actually gave me some extra ones. So
Good.
Jason offered to get them into the middle school library, if that's all right. And I was asking everyone here if they could recommend some kids to design this thing. We're gonna put them in some kind of, it'd be a great community service for 3 or 4 of them or something. They could set it up, and I could help them. I could make the thing for them. They just tell me what to do. And they're not like, they're probably only worth $2,000 to $4,000. It's less some of the pieces are really nice, but I think they should be there. My wife found most of them. I found some. Then we had other people that worked there that had found them. They wouldn't give them to me. I couldn't buy them off them. So.
Boy,
Who
that's
knows
a
how
story.
many we threw
I
out?
can't wait to tell my
Who
husband
knows how
what's
many
in the
we've thrown
potato
out?
field.
Yeah. And most of them were found at the, I don't know if anyone went to the Canton dump, the plant road. There was a small field on the left. It was a confluence where Whitney Brook goes into the Androscoggin. There's kind of a high plateau there. So evidently they must have lived there, because there was a ton of them there. And the other ones was on the Riverbend and Jay. Right up on the corner of it, a lot of them there. A lot of canoe gouges, adzes, knives, files.
That's really cool.
Toys,
I'm thinking,
weapons.
Jason, you're going to take care of it.
So anyway, I'm gonna bring those to the middle school tomorrow. And Lauren Hebert also, he added some things to this collection.
Oh, that's nice.
They're not from the Androscoggin Valley, but he's got a piece of a woolly mammoth tusk that he took as a down payment for medical services. And a guy from Alaska.
Lord of mercy.
Then he has this thing from Vermont that it's like a hammer. It's pretty cool. Then he has this pottery vase from the Navajo region that's kind of smashed, but it's glued together. But it's 4,000 years old or something.
Wow, that's cool.
So anyway, if somebody knew any kids that wanted to take community service and set this up, then Jason wouldn't have to do much, I just assume. We're gonna give the stuff, we're gonna leave the stuff with Jason, so if it disappears again.
Well, wait a minute.
That would be the last one.
Bruce?
Well, I just want to sum up by saying every year it seems more and more agonizing to go through the budget. It seems like we're always looking at another way to try to make an equal balance of everything. And this year, I think we've give and take from every corner, every aspect we could look at this budget. As transparent as we could, I think we've come up with the best scenario for this fiscal upcoming year. I'm just hoping that our towns are going to be willing to support. They always seem to be willing to help and back what the school has done. They've been very community oriented, and I think that what we've done and what we are presenting at this time, I'm in high hopes is going to be a go-ahead, and the town just to support it. So I think we've done our best job doing it. Can't say sometimes we get a little blindsided on things, but we work through it. But I think we've done everything we can to make this
That's
budget
your first
workable.
blindside for me.
Honestly, I would love to have feedback, if we feel like this is better for the district than not, would you prefer we don't go forward?
No, but
I feel like we have to do
I'm
what's
just
best for the
saying,
district.
through the years,
Yes,
but-
the first time that we were after break, this is not okay, we can't live with this,
Yeah.
we have to make one more attempt to try to figure it out.
so.
We're still on the low end of the state average projected increases for next year.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yes.
And people are
And
cutting
and
everywhere.
our cuts are not as dramatic.
Deep.
I didn't have as
Not that
much
deep.
areas or some places to cut, but so pretty.
Any other board member comments? Superintendent's report.
So I'm going to start by saying I apologize for not putting the RSU 56 report card on this agenda. I know we didn't get to see it last time, but I'm trying to figure out how to display it and given the connectivity
See,
issues.
You can't open it.
Well, I can in my office and in other places, but in this SCC, for some reason, it would not display last time, and I want to make sure that I can display it.
Screenshots of it and just kind of.
I can, just would be a little bit like,
It's not as
yeah.
user friendly.
Well, and I wanted you to see how you could bump bounce from one thing to another and check it out. So I'm
Don't forget
gonna
what?
work with tech at some point and try to put it on another agenda.
Can we, if we bring our laptops, would that work where we could do it, or?
Yeah, but then anybody watching wouldn't be able to see what was
Oh,
happening,
okay.
so, I don't know, I'll figure it out, I'll work with Brian and Dan and figure out what to do, but I didn't want you to think I forgot it, I just didn't feel like it was worth trying to do it again tonight, because I knew it wasn't gonna work. And as you know, last week was April vacation, the remainder of the school year will go fast with a number of events and activities for community members, staff, and students. As always, we have a luncheon at the last day of school, so on June 12th at noon time to 1, we'll have a luncheon, and then we honor our retirees and years of service. If you are willing to donate a raffle item to June 12th, that would be great, because we do end the day with raffle items for our people. Let's see, this is the first time that we're actually catering it with an outside group.
Shut the front, well, because Gina's here.
Because Gina is out on medical leave still and didn't feel like they could leave this in the, pile it up on her employees that are in our kitchens. So I have worked with an outside agency who will be coming in and catering our luncheon this year. So I wanted you to be aware of that, so nobody's surprised when you come in and sign the warrants that we have our caterer coming for that. While I'm waiting for Ms. Thompson to come up and do her report, I will tell you that the staff report that Dana Whittemore has decided to resign from the high school wrestling head coach position.
He's been there. I know, it's a great. You gotta remember when he was assistant, he started. Are you gonna have us look at things?
Just up there.
Okay, well, that means I gotta turn around if I want to.
There was one that's more represented.
Come on. I'm trying to get to school. Something.
I told Randy we were down at 15.
We were back. It's not, we're close.
Yeah. All right. So we'll go over just a quick overview. We'll talk a little bit about recent events that took place in April, course selection process that happens this time of year, some student leadership initiatives that we're working on, a little bit about attendance data, and then next year planning. All right. So the freshman class went up to the University of Maine at Orono. Students got to choose rotations. For the first rotation, they either did a college tour, they went and saw advanced composites, and then they did the process development. I believe this picture here is a process development. Last school year, this happened on our 8th grade step-up day. That was April 14th, I believe, 13th or 14th. Last year, I had 9th grade class working remotely as the 8th grade students came up to our building to free up the 9th grade teachers so we didn't have an overflow of students in our building. I don't like having students stay home and work remotely. Any chance I get to provide them a new experience. So Noah Preble was sort of was a point person on this and worked with Cora Scholl from Rural Aspirations to get this organized with the University of Maine at Orono. I also asked Pam to attend as the administrator. We've talked a lot about that, our 9th grade cohort needing a little extra support, and because I was running the 8th grade step-up day. So she went up. to support with students and making sure we were representing ourselves well at the university. The second rotation, they went to the Innovative Media Research and Commercialization Center. This is still a picture of the advanced, the process development piece, but from all of the staff that went, it sounded like, and Superintendent Doyen can speak to this, that the behavior was great. We represented ourselves
They were
well.
awesome. I was not embarrassed at any point. I might have told them, however, that I brought a book, and if they didn't behave, we would sit on the bus and I would just read quietly. But they were wonderful.
And I didn't get to go. I went to University of Maine Orono. That's where I got my undergraduate degree. So I think it's really important for our kids to see a lot of different pathways. In the fall, we send kids to community colleges and Joe's, but this is a bigger state school. So, when I was connecting with ninth graders, when they got back the next day, they were, felt like it was its own little town. They were excited to talk about, I had one student in my office telling me about how they have the biggest 3D printer that prints houses and boats and things like that. So yeah, we had 41 students out of the ninth grade class go, and they seemed to come back with eyes open about what a bigger university could provide. During that day, we had the 8th grade students come up for the morning. We broke them up into 6 groups, and they got to do 20-minute rotations with 9th grade teachers, just to get familiar with our building, get connected to the teacher. The expectation around that for teachers was you could go through the content you're planning to teach, you could do an activity. Really, it's just making sure they get an initial day in the building before next year, where we're trying to ease the nerves around that transition. Brenna Parent, our guidance counselor, and I went to the middle school on Monday and did rotations with the social studies classes. So we sort of met them at the middle school, and then they came up here. They did advisory team challenges. They had a normal lunch with the high schoolers, and then they had a student panel. One of the things I changed this year with the student panel is last year we had just our NHS students and our student council, but I really also think it's important for just students coming up to see a variety of different lenses through the educational experience. So we had some students on the panel, which I was just really impressed with, that when they were talking to our middle schoolers, said, listen, I didn't start high school well. I didn't take it seriously. I should have. It was a behavior issue in middle school, and I turned it around. And these are students that really did turn it around, and I've just been impressed with who they've become since I've known them. And it was really nice to get them speaking to the fact that you can get a clean slate, you can turn it around. And I even told the middle schoolers for you, Jason, that actually that starts as soon as they get back to the middle school. They can turn it around if they haven't already. So that was the schedule. They left around 12:20, but sort of that process, what I'm noticing and what I've always known about that transition, I was a middle school teacher, I was also a high school teacher, I've been a middle school and high school principal. It's just such a tough transition. And so the more we can do to support with that, there's so many rule changes, there's so many different expectations and things that they have to know as they get to high school. But starting that process of really trying to help with that transition as much as possible. A huge shout out to Abby and Sarah at the middle school. They work so easily with myself and Brenna to set this day up. We've met with them several times. They're always willing to adjust and accommodate the schedule, and I just really appreciate all the work that they put into making this day or this week happen really at the middle school. We're in the midst of course signups, well, and I should say that's already taken place, and now Brenna Parent is right in the middle of trying to create the best schedule for next year to meet the needs of all of our students. This really starts early in March, where we talk with our high school teachers, we make sure all updates are implemented into the program of study, and that goes on the school webpage. Then Mrs. Parent met with all grade levels on March 18th to talk about all the things that they need to know, because there's so much they need to review. They need to look at their credit accounting to make sure they're on track to graduate. They need to look at course offerings. They need to look at teacher recommendations. They need to think about their post-secondary goals and aspirations, and as they're getting to be a junior and senior, those can be vastly different. So she met with them to review sort of, here's all the information you get. On March 25th, students reviewed that information with their advisory teachers, and then April 1st and April 8th was course signups using PowerSchool. This is the second year we are using the system of kids signing up through PowerSchool. And so what happens after this step is, once all students are signed up, we allow PowerSchool to work through the algorithm of basically developing the best schedule based on student need. Obviously, through the month of May, Brenna will sit down with kids who have unique pathways and adjust as needed. So she spends a lot of time during the month of May meeting with individual kids, and then meeting with teachers who have unique concerns. Once she's done that through the month of May, the schedules will get developed and sent out in June for all students. As we've talked about in length, and is sort of things to consider while we're continuing to develop schedules, the limited electives, 22 credits has come up with the board. We're all aware of that. We have a minimum of 5 courses that kids are required to be enrolled in, and then working to provide multiple pathways. So that's really the goal. Is getting as creative as humanly possible to set kids up for success in whatever they want to do outside of high school. Yes?
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
Because the parents used to be involved, because they used to see the schedule and sign.
Yeah.
Because you got one child, they know what they want to pick.
Right.
The other one, I'm going to do the less I can do. So who is monitoring when this child does enough to get the credits, but
Yes.
lower level, don't challenge, don't that?
Yes.
So where does that, who picks up on
Who
that?
picks up? So there's a couple of things we do. One, a letter goes out as we start this process to families, and we always encourage families to come in and meet with Mrs. Parent through this May portion, May and June. I know she's met with several families already. And then we did last year, I believe we added parent guardian signatures to the add drop form.
Oh,
And the
it used to
reason
be.
why we did that is for that alone, is a kid tries to drop maybe an AP class because they just want to go into a study hall. Sorry, we need your parent or guardian
They could do
signature.
it without parents?
Wow. Well,
That,
I don't know if that, I just know
well,
it's,
They
you're
could go
doing,
to
I'm
Region
not gonna
9
say.
without, they
Huh?
can go to Region 9 without a parent ever knowing
yes.
that. Happened to me.
Yeah, so
I'll know
the letter does go out before this whole process starts to
Yeah.
make folks aware. We always encourage parent communication, and parents can set up meetings. But yes, that was
Yeah.
added. We were concerned about kids dropping, but also it's been a conversation at staff meetings too about how we handle that. I will tell you this, and I say it every time I come up here. We are very lucky to have Brenna Parent as our guidance
I know
counselor.
we are.
She has no problem like holding high expectations for kids and telling kids no. And she also has no problem calling home if she thinks it's not a good decision a student's making. And the same goes for our staff. I've been really impressed with our staff if they're concerned of kids trying to take the easy way out of dropping, an accelerated or advanced course or things like that, that they often make communication home as well. So we've talked about it, yes, the need for more for our students. And I think that this year, going into next year, we're going to try to get as creative as possible. We have offered up a few slots. We have funding in our tutoring line, basically, to offer a few online courses through Brigham Young University. We've been testing out a little bit this semester with kids who aren't on track to graduate and need to make up something. They purchase an online, they purchase an online course if they've failed and it's not fitting in their schedule. However, what we're planning to do going into next year is kids who, are looking for more, but study hall, learning labs are the option, but are interested in game design, sports entertainment, marketing, child development, cybersecurity, our entrepreneurship, there's a few spots we're offering, 5 available spots to 11th and 12th graders if they're interested in trying one of those online courses. So we're going to give that a shot. That's really for students, one, who can work independently, who have kind of maximized their electives currently. And so that's something that was put out during course offerings in March and April for students as they're looking at building their minimum of 5 classes. We also added through conversations, did you have a question?
I was just going to ask, have you heard much feedback on that yet?
The
Or is it
Brigham
still
Young?
kinda- Yeah.
So-
It's still kind of early.
Still early. We're checking in with kids, and right now, the majority of the kids are kids who absolutely need the course to graduate, and so they're cranking through those as much as possible. I'll be very curious going into the fall, and we'll kind of keep an eye on this because online courses are tough, sort of just in general. But we've got to get creative about what we're offering, and so I thought, Brenda and I and Pam, when we were talking, looking at what are some maybe engaging online, for those that are really interested in game design, it might hit a little differently if they're, really interested in that category. So that is something we'll monitor. Like I said, there's only 5 slots available in the fall, and we'll check back in and see, was that worth those 5 slots, or can we do something different that's a little more creative? So yeah, that's sort of trial error, and I definitely will give feedback in the fall.
Is this something that the student is paying to do?
So the kids who have failed certain classes and are not on track to graduate, currently right now, they are paying to do it. Next year, this is opening up through some funding in our tutoring line to test this out as a possibility for kids unpaid on their part. And that's really to fill, we've talked in length about students, the number in our study halls, our learning labs, and really trying to figure out how can we engage them. We are seeing, and you mentioned, that some kids, if they're a senior, they want those learning labs, right? However, we do have 11th and 12th graders who don't have enough course offerings to fill up their schedule in a way that we would like. And so this is just one small sort of trial we're going to do for the fall to see, how kids feel about it, if it gets traction, and things like that.
Okay, thanks.
We're also offering Interested, Design Your Own Learning. Carolyn Biot will be putting this on for students. It will sort of run as an independent study where kids can, choose what they're interested in diving deeper into, and she's going to facilitate that learning. So that's another course that will be new for credit this coming year, and that will be brand new on her end as well. So she's going to be navigating sort of the development of that course as it goes. But I really think, I know 2 students already have expressed interest in this course, and really I think it will gain traction as we're giving kids the opportunity to dive in deeper to interests of their own. So I'll give an update in the fall at how this is going as well. And then I threw out this to students. The Community Action Project, this would be an independent study semester course where kids are solving a community need or issue, and then I'd be checking in with them bi-weekly, to see where they're at, to continue to problem solve barriers. This would be a set course, and once again, these are all if students are interested. So they're not graduation requirements. We're just trying really hard at the high school to get creative about how we can engage kids in a real way. I ran a class like this at my previous school, just one section of it, and kids came up with things like talking with the cafeteria, the lunch staff to develop menus and things like that, but they realized they hit barriers through that process, right? Cost, food waste, state and federal mandates, and that's really healthy for kids to try to solve a problem and hit barriers and have to navigate that and understand federal and state regulations. So this has been put out as an offer to students. Once again, it's more for our kids who can work really independently, but trying to get creative about what we're offering, so that they have the ability to gain skills through these projects. There was a student athlete leadership conference or summit that Mrs. Thurston sets up with students, and those kids went. There are a few kids missing from the photo, but Mrs. Thurston and I have been really trying to figure out how, we have NHS, we have student council, but how do we get student athletes taking leadership positions in our school? And so Mrs. Thurston and I talked about having a lunch with the students who went to this summit to talk about leadership and see what they got from the summit and see what they think we should start to implement here at the high school. So we provided them with pizza to get them to come have lunch with Mrs. Thurston and I. They did show up, and I was really impressed with the conversations that we had. So talking about how I want them to have a voice in their own education, and what does leadership look like to them, and how do we build community here? And they had some great ideas around, one, they said, can we have more luncheons like this? And I thought that was a great start, that they want to continue to meet. But also talking about how we build community through team building, and how, they mentioned how Telstar takes their whole senior class kayaking and things like that. And so really discussing with them, how are we building community and a culture where student athletes are also in leadership positions within our school as well. So that's one initiative that we will be continuing into next year. Let's see. Attendance data, I showed this the last time. This is our chronic absenteeism over the past 5 years. Unfortunately, right now, where we're at with chronic absenteeism, as of April 1st, it's at 30.87%. Last year, we finished out the year at 22.1%, and this is a continued conversation as to how we get students coming to school. I know, the Dropout Prevention Committee meets and talks about it, and really, if we're looking at it, about an 8% increase, and that could change by the end of the year, higher or lower, we'll see. But really just continue to work on how we get kids coming to school. What are the reasons they're not coming to school? Is it a transportation issue? Is it a bullying issue? Is it a mental health issue? Is it an engagement issue? What's going on with students? Yeah, this, like I said, this will be continued conversation as to how we can address this. Right now at the high school, we have a lot of 18-year-olds signing themselves out, and so trying to figure out, I've reached out to other schools, Pam has reached out to other schools, you know, Shiloh has gone to a conference around this where it came up as an issue in other high schools, and so I haven't checked grade level numbers, but I'm wondering if that has become an increase. But it's a concern. Legally, right now, what we're hearing is they can sign themselves out. But I have to see if there's procedures we can put in place because they are now signing themselves out quite frequently as senioritis sets in. Next year planning.
Pay for them. No parents.
Things I want to work on, and so things I'm going to be looking at over the summer, among other things, will be freshman support. So yes, we have a transition planning week in April that we do. We have an orientation in the first day of school for freshmen, but I just want to keep trying to figure out how we support that transition a little bit more at the high school and really get kids organized and starting off on a good note, feeling successful. It is a huge change when all of a sudden credits matter, like they're working towards earning credits, and that's, I think, a shocker to some, although I will say Jason changed his grading system to be more aligned with the high school, and I think that will help as well. Our intervention block, it's called Flex Block. It's right before lunch. It's a 30-minute period where teachers can sign students up. There are sometimes sort of extra curricular activities. I should say that if a student isn't signed up and they're getting 80s or above, they can sometimes go to the weight room or play basketball in the gym or go outside. But that's still not how I'd like it to be. Like, there's still work to be done. I think there's still a need to figure out how we're supporting our failing students and just using that time a little more wisely. I'm not sure how we'll do that, but I'm going to get staff feedback over the next month and a half and then plan over the summer on that. Student leadership opportunities, continue working with Sarah around how we can get student athletes in these leadership roles as well.
I'm curious, they used to be the leaders, so they're not anymore?
Well, I would say that. I just would say that we have our National Honor Society.
Yeah.
We have our student council, right? And so there's some overlap. There's students in those, but I really want to.
Class officers.
Yeah, I want to continue to make sure. The more kids are in leadership positions in whatever realm, because there are kids that play sports that wouldn't qualify to be National Honor Society, but are phenomenal leaders. And when I invited kids that are not in those committees to be a student panel, they had some of the best responses to kids about turning it around and things like that. And so I think it's not that student athletes are not leaders in our building. It's just providing them also with an opportunity to vocalize about academics, right? National Honor Society, they have meetings. Student Council, they have meetings with an advisor to vocalize what they want to see about the school, and I really want to just continue to find pockets where we're promoting that. I'd also say, and I didn't put this on here, but I'd also we have an advisory program, we have a morning advisory time, and I'd like to try to get where there's a sort of one representative from each advisory meeting with me, bi-weekly or monthly. That's not necessarily a kid that falls into these specific categories that we consider leadership. I think we have a lot of kids that have those qualities that might not be in these clubs, but would be phenomenal at providing voice in our school. And then building community, keeping on working on that. A lot of that came out of our student leadership lunch, of talking about team building, talking about building community. I also, had feedback from folks that have been here previously about some of the events that we, so that school spirit, and I think we have great school spirit at Diego High School, but like continuing to look at that and how do we work on our kids being a part of that process of building community and being the front runners of that. So not an adult in a advisory role, but how are kids the front runners of building community? How are kids the front runners of leadership and voice? And then post-secondary planning that is always at the high school level, something that is on my mind is we have 4 years with them, and I want every kid, the goal really is that every kid, their senior year, is walking out of this building feeling confident that they have something in place, whether it's military, whether it's trades, whether it's an associate's degree, whether it's 4-year college. I really want that to be, every single kid feeling really confident about their path. And so that will always be our sort of creative problem solving over the summer. I'll keep pushing for that as well. And that's that.
Have you worked on, because, we were asked to judge the portfolio. Have you worked on how them are evolving, or what is the purpose?
Yeah.
And what is, because they pass or fail on it. That was one of the things when we looked over the policy for graduation requirements. That was one of the things that, I know there's a lot for you to divulge into, but to see that, because last year's were better, I will say, than the last several years.
Yeah.
But I just wonder how, or is it a project you haven't hit on yet?
Well, so I'd say it's a project that we're hitting on, but like with everything, growth takes time. So if I can talk to you a little bit about what we've done with the Cougar Paw. So last summer, we met with Rebecca, Peggy, Noah, Brenna, myself, and Cora, who was a consultant through Rural Aspirations, and we started sequencing that out. And the conversation was really, how do we make this feel relevant to kids, right? That is the goal, is how does Cougar Paw feel relevant to kids? And that should be the goal kind of with all of our courses, right? Yeah. And everything we do. So with that, we sequenced that out, and so some of the changes that we did, for example, we were doing junior job shadow first thing in the fall, in September. Like everyone had the same date, and they all went off and did their junior job shadow. Through conversations with Cora and what she's done with other schools, it came up that, well, maybe not every job shadow is going to work out on September 26th or whatever the day was. And that realistically, if we want that to be an assignment that is meaningful, we need to allow kids to do it anytime through the school year so that they can actively set up an appropriate junior job shadow. Because I do, and I still hear it this year, and I think it's going to take several years to change that culture, but I'll still have kids come up to me and say, oh, I'm just going to do it at, for this company. And I ask them, well, is that what you want to do after high school? And they're like, no, but it's a junior job shadow that I have to do. And I'm like, no, that's not the purpose of this assignment. What do you want to do? Let's expose you to whatever career path in some form so that you get comfortable with it, or you see that it's not what you want to do. And so, for example, I just had a kid in my office a couple weeks ago, maybe before April break, and that was her conversation. She said, I'm just going to do this. And I said, no, what do you want to do? And she said she wants to be a pilot. And I said, okay, well, you're not going to go observe a teacher at the elementary school or whatever it was if you want to be a pilot. Let's figure out how we can set you up with something more aligned with that. It might not be you're flying an aircraft tomorrow, but like, can we get you set up? So I believe she's going to, I worked with Noah, he made a connection, and she's going to go to like a piloting school and supervise for the day and get information. So like, but would we have been able to do that, the first 3 weeks of school? Probably not. And is that more aligned? Like, is she gonna see whether this is really maybe something for her or not? Yeah, and so, but that's gonna be a shift because kids are saying that even this year, and we have to stop them and say, no, what do you really wanna do? I will say, there are other kids who have gone through the ONET process during Cougar Paw, and it sort of gives you 3 careers that might fit what you're looking for. We've had a student that did it and was originally just gonna job shadow one place and decided to do all 3, so it's a work in progress, but that's an example of how we're trying to make it more relevant.
Bruce?
I know you said it in one of your first slides, to talk about limited electives, but the nice elective that we have out there is Region 9.
Yeah.
And the thing to keep in mind is that there are a lot of students that, are going to Region 9 from all 3 sending schools, and it allows them to do a lot of hands-on things that you cannot do inside this building.
Yeah.
So you want to keep in mind to add that into your part for the students, because we even have it where we have times when we invite the 8th graders to Region 9, so that it gives them perspective. And it's amazing how many, when they leave, how many kids are excited to think, wow, I never knew this was available.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that you reinforce that as well.
Oh, 100%. Our 8th graders went there, our 9th graders went there this year, and our sophomores went there as well. And then I've been hounding kids to fill out the online application before the deadline. I mean, really, they wanted them back in March, but I know they are very kind and do sort of a rolling. But I was just on the phone with Brenda about 2 of our kids asking if they had room for them maybe a couple weeks ago. So yeah, it's a valuable pathway among many pathways we try to provide to kids.
And I've got to commend Jason, because a lot of the credits that now are being accepted at this district is by work what Jason's done. He's got so that they can get the appropriate credits that they need for graduation going to Region 9, and it's working out really well. Our numbers are up again. It's amazing.
Any other questions for her? Great presentation.
All right. Good to see you all.
Good to see you. All right, committee reports. Don't have student policy. Thought we were done for the year, but the state put out a sample policy of what we already are doing, but we're going to have to compare and make sure with the cell phone policy they didn't add something else. Finance?
Like I said, we had quite a meeting, and we had no idea that we were gonna get another suggestion.
There you go. It was a fun-filled meeting. Brad's not here for curriculum. You don't have anything scheduled, do you, Jason?
No, we don't.
Okay. Buildings and grounds
Have nothing planned.
and negotiations?
Not this year.
Personnel?
Nothing new?
Ad hoc, when are we meeting, or when are
So we
you?
don't know when we're going to meet next, but Deerfield Diversity Day at the high school and middle school is tomorrow. And I'm still working on mine. It's a big day, it's very involved, and I really, Kaylin, in retrospect, this is a tough time of year to ask a high school principal to plan a special event, because they are doing their 8th grade transition work and gearing up for graduation. And Kaylin has managed to juggle all of that. And I'll also add that when Bruce, when we did the work last year for Region 9, Kaylin was critical and participated in many of those meetings as well. And I am very glad I get to work.
And we're glad to have both of you. All people are administrators. Dropout prevention is May 18th. Technology, if you're going to get the person, you better get your crap together for a committee.
That's on the list.
Okay. No executive, can I get a motion to adjourn? And second? Second. All those in favor? Night.